There you go. Yeah, why do nations trade? Why do nations trade? The first thing that you're going to have to look at is the idea of absolute advantage. And what is absolute advantage? It's the ability of one person or nation to produce a good or service better than another country with the same amount of resources. So this is the key, okay? This is the key in figuring out, are you better than doing a particular task than someone else? Okay, so this is the idea of absolute advantage. Now, a lot of people get this confused, thinking that if a country has absolute advantage over another country, then there's no need to trade. Okay, this is completely untrue, and this is one of the things that you have to understand in international economics. The idea that absolute advantage, although it's very interesting to see which country is capable of producing at a higher rate than another country, this is not the essential concept in why nations trade. In terms of producing with another country, it's the relative ability of a country. It's the relative ability of a country to produce that is so much more important than an absolute ability to produce. Okay? It's not that I can produce something that's. Let me rephrase that. It's not that I can produce at such a fast rate that that's why I should trade with you. It's the idea that I can give up less in producing something than you can, therefore I should produce that particular item in which I'm not giving up as much as you are. Okay, so it's really in terms of what am I giving up compared to what my neighbor is giving up. And you can apply this in the setting of a nation or in the setting of individuals. Okay? So David Ricardo is the one who's credited with coming up with this idea. Okay? So I'm going to take an example, a practical example, and put some numbers to it to see, okay, how do you build this model of comparative advantage in economics? All right, we're going to look at baseball bats and balls. Let's say an individual here, to maintain his anonymity, we'll say Jerry P. wants to start a business. Okay? Jerry P. wants to start a business, and he wants to get into a business with a partner. He's not about to start a sole proprietorship. He wants it to be a partnership. And so he decides to go into business with a fellow teammate, and Jerry P. decides that he would like to go into business with an individual named Mario R. Okay? So you have Jerry P. and Mario R., and since they're baseball fanatics, they're going to produce baseball bats. Right here, baseball bats. And baseballs. Okay? So these are the two items that they're going to produce. Now obviously this is a simplified process, because obviously a lot goes into making baseballs and baseball bats. But for the sake of simplicity, we're going to assume that these are the two items that they can produce individually, okay, without the help of anyone else. So we're going to figure out who has absolute advantage in making baseball bats and baseballs. Okay? So we look at Jerry here. Look at this absolute advantage chart. Jerry is able to make 6 bats per hour. Mario is able to make 3 bats per hour. And you look at the ability of producing balls. Jerry is able to produce 3 balls per hour. Mario is able to produce 2 balls per hour. Okay, so this is an absolute advantage chart. A lot of people will look at this and say that Jerry has made a mistake. Jerry should have gone into business with someone else, or perhaps he's better off if he goes off into business by himself, saying that Mario is basically useless in this situation, right? Because who's better at making bats? Who's better at making bats? Jerry, clearly. So the correct term would be that Jerry has absolute advantage in producing bats, because 6 bats, 3 bats, clearly Jerry is more capable in the bat making process. Okay? Both have the same amount of resource, in this case 1 hour. So Jerry has absolute advantage in producing bats. Now, if you look at balls, now who has absolute advantage in making balls? Jerry, clearly. Jerry has absolute advantage in making balls because 3 balls is greater than 2 balls. So Jerry has absolute advantage in making both bats and balls. However, this is clearly unimportant in the sense that absolute advantage does not dictate the terms of trade. You know, if this were the case, if we plotted two different countries together and said that one country has absolute advantage in making two products and therefore there's no need to trade, then there wouldn't be a lot of trade going on within all the countries of the world. What's more important is the idea of comparative advantage. So we're going to look at comparative advantage. So you're going to build a comparative advantage chart. So the absolute advantage chart, all it is kind of figuring out how many bats and how many balls you make per hour. The comparative advantage chart looks at the relative ability. What are you giving up when you're creating a bat or a ball? Moving right along. This is the comparative advantage chart. Okay. Or let's do a little simple math here. For Jerry, he produces 6 bats or 3 balls in 1 hour. Okay. I'm going to incorporate a little math here, just to break it down, so that you know exactly, how to set these things equal to each other. Basically, for Jerry, making 6 bats is equivalent to 1 hour. So I just put an equal sign in there and put 6 bats equals 1 hour. Also, it takes 1 hour for Jerry to make 3 bats. Or 3 balls, I'm sorry, 3 balls. Okay. Now, using the transitive property, if A equals B and B equals C, then A equals C. So therefore, 6 bats equals 3 balls. Okay, so the whole idea is to set these two things equal to each other so that you have a basic comparison. Because we're using the same amount of resources, 1 hour. So it's a lot more helpful if you set the bats and balls equal to each other. Now, you want to figure out, okay, what is the opportunity cost? Okay, this is a key concept. What is the opportunity cost for Jerry to make 1 bat? Okay. Now, it's very simple. All you have to do is divide 6 to both sides, and you figure out that the opportunity cost of producing 1 bat is half a ball. Okay? Because the time that Jerry could have been using to produce that 1 bat, he's giving up production of half a ball. Now, if I was able to produce half a ball here, perhaps it would be a better way to demonstrate, but basically, the opportunity cost of this 1 bat, if I could splice this up into half, you're figuring that 1 bat equals half a ball. Okay, so that's Jerry's opportunity cost. He's not able to produce bats and balls at the same time. He's giving one up in order to produce the other. Okay? Now let's look at Mario's situation. Mario, he makes 3 bats or 2 balls per hour. Okay? Now you do the same mathematical equation here. Again, it's not heavy math, but it's very important to do this because if you don't have the terminologies right, you can get kind of lost in what the opportunity cost is and what equals each other. So clearly, 3 bats equals 1 hour's worth of Mario's time. And again, it takes 1 hour for Mario to produce 2 balls. And if you set these two equal to each other, then you have 3 bats equals 2 balls. And the key is here, what is Mario's opportunity cost when he produces the bat? Now, we've established that Jerry has absolute advantage in both bat making and ball making, right? But in the process of doing these, converting these things equal to each other, we're trying to figure out who's, even though we've established that Jerry is clearly the superior ball maker and bat maker, which one, if they had to choose to do something, which one, how should they specialize in the particular task that they're doing? So you divide by 3 once again to get 1 bat and figure out how many balls that equals. And so 1 bat for Jerry equals 2/3 of a ball. Okay, now again that would be 1 bat for Jerry. Now if I could somehow cut this up into 2/3 of a ball, then we have a better demonstration. Okay.